Congratulations. We are tantalizingly close to my riding of Nepean. Just across there. Very proudly in Anita's riding. Yes, Anita Vanderbilt's riding of Nepean West. But in Nepean, it is the proud home to Kaivan, one of Canada's most successful developers, manufacturers, and home builders. It's one of a new breed that are driving a Canadian industrial revolution in home building. What we need. Kaivan is scaling up their plant from around 6 homes per day present to 38 per day by the end of the year. That is 10,000 homes a year built in their factory in Nepean. The 2 sets of homes behind me were manufactured in 2 days, assembled on site in one. We kept the townhouses, we wanted to keep the townhouses open. We held back the workers from finishing it so you could see how things fit together, how the computer design fits together and tailors the structure. The one over there is being shipped to Nunavut, and I'll speak more about that project in a moment. Kaivan est la preuve de savoir-faire canadien dans la construction des maisons de l'avenir. Leur rapidité, leur rigueur et leur engagement envers l'innovation sont les raisons pour lesquelles nous sommes ici avec eux aujourd'hui. Exactly 6 months ago today, Canada's new government was sworn in for the first time. And on the steps of Rideau Hall, I promised that our focus would be action and change. And we immediately began to deliver that change. On day 1, we canceled the consumer carbon tax, which had become too divisive. And that helped bring down gas prices for all Canadians. Et après l'élection générale de notre première session parlementaire, nous avons réduit les impôts pour la classe moyenne, éliminé tous les obstacles fédéraux au commerce interprovincial et adopté la loi sur la construction du Canada afin d'accélérer les grands projets d'intérêt national. Cet été, nous avons conclu de nouveaux accords avec nos partenaires et alliés pour diversifier nos échanges commerciaux. In June, we struck a new EU-Canada partnership that will expand and deepen our trade, defense, and energy, as well as our commercial relationships. Le mois dernier, je me suis rendu en Ukraine, en Pologne, en Allemagne et en Lettonie pour renforcer notre prospérité et notre sécurité commune, notamment dans les secteurs de minéraux critiques, de l'énergie, de la défense et de l'intelligence artificielle. Au cours des 2 dernières semaines, nous avons lancé des initiatives et des investissements historiques pour protéger les travailleurs les plus touchés par les tarifs américains et pour renforcer la compétitivité de nos entreprises. Nous avons mis sur pied le bureau des grands projets et nous avons lancé notre première série de nouveaux projets de construction nationale afin de transformer notre économie. 60 milliards de dollars d'investissements initiaux, combinés à des stratégies qui vont catalyser des centaines de milliards de dollars supplémentaires. Et nous ne faisons que commencer. The change is just beginning. We need to keep moving with speed and determination because the upheaval in the global trading system is not a transition, it's a rupture. And its effects are already profound. Workers displaced from their jobs, supply chains disrupted, and massive amounts of investment held back due to extreme uncertainty. Now more than ever, we need to take control of our destiny. Dans cet environnement marqué par les bouleversements, le nouveau gouvernement du Canada se concentre ce que nous pouvons contrôler. Donner plus de pouvoir aux Canadiens en renforçant notre pouvoir économique. We're transforming Canada's economy from one that had become too reliant on a single trading partner to an economy that's more diverse, more resilient, that's built for Canadian workers and their families. The Canadian government's 7 core missions will build our economy, protect our workers, and empower Canadians to seize the opportunities that will arise from this transformation. We won't just manage through this crisis. We will prosper from it. And that brings me to today's announcement. We're focusing on our government's mission to make housing more affordable for all Canadians. You know, young Canadians are doing everything right. They're studying hard, finding a job, saving up. Yet for too many of them, rent is unaffordable and home ownership feels entirely out of reach. Across the country, it takes nearly 4 years for first-time homebuyers to save for a down payment. In a market such as Toronto and Vancouver, even longer. Depuis des décennies, les experts sonnent l'alarme. Le Canada n'a pas assez de logements parce que nous ne bâtissons pas assez et pas assez vite. Aujourd'hui, avec les pressions croissantes sur l'offre, les prix demeurent trop élevés. Bref, le logement abordable est devenu une crise pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes. So we're in a housing crisis, as Gregor said, and it's going to take all hands on deck to get us out of it. Our private sector, our provinces and territories, municipalities, nonprofits, and Indigenous partners, all working together to speed up and scale up home building, to build the affordable housing that all Canadians deserve. And so today, the Minister of Housing and I are proud to launch Build Canada Homes, a new federal entity that will supercharge housing construction across Canada. Build Canada Homes will do several things. It will help fight homelessness by building transitional and supportive housing in close partnership with provinces, territories, municipalities, and Indigenous communities. Secondly, it will expand deeply affordable and community housing for low-income households. Third, these are all important. Third, Build Canada Homes will partner with private sector developers to build affordable homes for the Canadian middle class. And finally, Build Canada Homes, in doing all of that, will catalyze the creation of an entirely new Canadian housing industry that uses modern methods of construction to boost productivity sustainably and at scale. So how do we do that? Well, Build Canada Homes will offer flexible financial incentives. It will approve large portfolio projects and quickly leverage public lands for housing so projects are de-risked, approvals are greenlit, and builders can do what they do best, which is to build. By combining development, financing, and innovation, Build Canada Homes will make large housing projects financially viable. It will also attract enormous private capital into affordable home building. And it will enable private manufacturers and modular home builders to invest in new factories, expand capacity rapidly, and to continue to innovate. This, along with a series of other new measures, will help double the pace of housing construction in this country over the next decade. Maison Canada va transformer la façon dont notre pays augmente l'offre de logement. Bâtir plus vite, bâtir plus intelligemment et bâtir à moins de coûts. Maison Canada sera le guichet unique du logement abordable et accélérera les grands projets immobiliers pour les mettre rapidement en chantier. Cette initiative jouera un rôle clé dans notre plan visant à doubler le rythme de construction de logements au cours de la prochaine décennie. The core challenge at present in the housing market is it's just too hard to build. Loans are expensive, developers face year-long delays in permitting, and land, development charges and taxes can make up half of project costs. These are some of the reasons that there has been no productivity growth in construction in the past 40 years. And since the pandemic, construction productivity has actually fallen. We need big changes to turn this around. With an initial capitalization of $13 billion, Build Canada Homes will reduce the upfront costs of building by offering flexible financial incentives to attract private capital and to catalyze large portfolio projects. Build Canada Homes will use a range of financial tools, from contributions to loans, loan guarantees, equity investments, and investments in real property and housing. To streamline approvals, Build Canada Homes will greenlight projects in bulk. So instead of developers needing to submit dozens of applications separately, large portfolios of projects will be approved all at once. This is part of our government's broader efforts to cut duplication and reduce costs for Canadians. Multi-year deals will create steady demand, so developers can plan, expand, and build more homes. And modern housing factories can build the capacity that we need. To reduce the cost of construction, Build Canada Homes will maximize the use of public lands. The Canada Lands Company will be transferred to the Build Canada Homes portfolio. That's going to streamline construction on public lands. Let me put this in a bit of context. As we stand here today, there are already 88 federal properties suitable for housing listed on the Canada Land Bank, spanning 463 hectares. That's the size of downtown Ottawa. I'm directing my cabinet colleagues to look for more, to determine those lands owned by their departments which can also be used for housing. This land will help lower costs for builders and, most importantly, lower the rents and new home prices for Canadian families. Parce que le gouvernement partage le risque des projets qui auraient été autrement bloqués peuvent enfin voir le jour. The second major challenge with housing construction in this country is that by using conventional methods, our construction is just too slow for the housing supply that we need to meet our current needs. It's also too expensive and too heavily reliant on traditional on-site methods. We need to transform the way we build by harnessing the latest technologies. And that's why Build Canada Homes will prioritize the use of cost-efficient and modern methods of construction, including factory build, modular, and mass timber. Factory build housing means homes, or large parts of homes, built in controlled factory settings, with precision, with advanced machinery, and benefiting from the latest technology. These homes can be standardized, mass-produced, and once completed, shipped to site and assembled in days or weeks rather than months or years. Factory production also enables housing construction to continue through Canadian winters. It's not always like this. This removes seasonal downtime that currently slows down the sector. And factory-built housing can accelerate home building by up to 50%, lower costs by 20%, and reduce emissions by over 20% compared to traditional construction methods. In short, Build Canada Homes will help us build faster, smarter, and more sustainable. And the third challenge for Canadian home building is our supply chain. Right now, the situation is that Canada exports raw materials such as timber, steel, aluminum, largely to the US. And then we import finished products such as windows, panels, and prefabricated units at a much higher cost. In effect, we are paying other countries to convert what we already have into what we really need. No more. Build Canada Homes will adopt the government's new Buy Canadian policy and prioritize projects such as these that use Canadian resources. We'll strengthen domestic supply chains, create high-paying careers across the country, and ensure that new housing drives new orders for Canadian steel, lumber, mass timber, and aluminum. Nous créerons une toute nouvelle industrie du logement au Canada, non seulement pour bâtir des maisons, mais aussi pour exporter des maisons modulaires fabriquées au Canada, des produits de bois et des technologies de logement. Now, it's a big job ahead for Build Canada Homes to supercharge affordable housing development and create that new industry in Canada. It needs a strong and experienced leader. And that's why the Minister and I are pleased to announce that Anna Bailão will be the new CEO of Build Canada. Anna is a seasoned leader with deep experience in affordable housing, having served for over a decade on Toronto City Council, including as Deputy Mayor from 2017 to 2022, as Chair of the Planning and Housing Committee, and on the board of Toronto Community Housing. While on Council, Anna spearheaded the creation of Housing Now, which uses city lands to build affordable housing. And most recently, she served as head of affordable housing at the private developer Dream Unlimited. Canadians are fortunate, Anna, that you'll put your experience in the service of building faster across our country. Thank you. And notice that a sense of urgency, Anna's here on a Sunday. We're all here on a Sunday. We are getting straight to work by announcing the first 4 investments and initiatives of Build Canada Home. First, as we begin to develop the public lands in Canada Lands portfolio, we will make good on that promise to prioritize modern factory-built housing. To begin with, Build Canada Homes will develop 6 sites to build 4,000 factory-built homes on federal lands, with additional capacity on those sites of up to 45,000 units. The first tranche, moving east to west, the first tranche of those sites will be in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, Longueuil, Quebec, Ottawa, Toronto, Winnipeg, and Edmonton. What BCH will do is employ a direct build approach, overseeing and leading construction projects focused on affordable mixed income communities. The second thing we're going to do out of the gate is to help protect existing affordable rental housing. The $1.5 billion Canada Rental Protection Fund will be launched under Build Canada Homes. This initiative supports community housing by acquiring at-risk rental apartment buildings, ensuring they remain affordable over the long term. It also aligns Build Canada Homes' broader mandate to grow the supply of affordable and non-market housing, not just by building new homes, but by preserving the ones on which Canadians already rely. The third thing that Build Canada Homes will do out of the gate is allocate $1 billion for new capital investments in supportive and transitional housing for those at risk or experiencing homelessness. It'll work in collaboration with the provinces, territories, and municipalities, and our Indigenous partners. We will pair those federal investments with employment and healthcare supports for those people. Finally, Build Canada Homes will partner with Nunavut's Housing Corporation to build over 700 public, affordable, and supportive housing units. And approximately 30% of those units are expected to be built off-site, such as the one over there, using factory-built housing. Now, Build Canada Homes will announce a series of additional projects across the country in the months ahead, leveraging those public assets, public lands, partnering with the private sector to build at scale. Chaque dollar fédéral investi dans les Maisons Canada se multipliera en attirant les capitaux privés, les investisseurs et des promoteurs afin d'élargir l'offre de logement. Nous mettons en place les conditions pour catalyser le maximum d'investissement et permettre aux bâtisseurs de bâtir et de bâtir maintenant. Le Canada peut accroître considérablement son offre de logement abordable et devenir un chef de file mondial en matière d'innovation de logement, y compris les techniques de construction, les matériaux durables et la fabrication de pointe. Les Canadiens doivent savoir que la route à suivre ne sera pas toujours facile. Cela demandera une mobilisation nationale comme on n'en a pas vu depuis la fin de la guerre mondiale. Un changement de cette ampleur n'est pas facile, jamais, mais c'est essentiel. Et pour un Canada uni et déterminé, c'est réalisable. So to finish, Canadians have given our new government a mandate to build a stronger Canada, to build a country where Canadians are empowered, with more opportunities that help you get ahead, with lower costs, safer communities, and homes you can afford. That's the foundation on which you can build your life, how you want it, and where you want it. By building smart, building Canadian, building now, we are building Canada strong.
Bonjour, Mylène Crête de la presse. Quel est le prix d'un loyer abordable mensuellement, selon vous?
So moi, ça dépend. En ce qui concerne les montants des dépenses, ça doit être 30% de rendement avant la taxe ou moins. Ça, c'est la définition de logement abordable.
Et ça fait combien?
Y compris le loyer. Le loyer, dans la question de dollars, ça dépend aux villes, évidemment. Alors, c'est un pourcentage de rendement moyen. De 30%, ça, c'est la définition. Et, pardonnez-moi, mais le travail de Maison Canada, évidemment, c'est pour des maisons tellement abordables. Et alors, abordable inclut des gens qui dépensent plus que ça à ce moment-ci, parce que maintenant, le moyenne est à peu près 45%.
Ça fait combien par mois? Par exemple, ici, on est à Ottawa, un marché comme Ottawa, ça serait combien un loyer abordable par mois?
Le montant exact, c'est à peu près... Encore, ça dépend de l'individu. OK? Alors, c'est à peu près 800 $ pour abordable, 600, 800 $. Mais pour des gens tellement abordables, c'est plus bas que ça. Et le problème maintenant est que, ensemble, le montant de logement social au Canada, c'est à peu près 3,5% du total de logement au Canada. C'est moins de 50% de moyenne des pays de l'OCDE. Alors, il faut agir, il faut bâtir à partir de maintenant afin de réduire les prix.
Merci. Prochaine question.
Ça marche.
Radio-Canada.
Bonjour, Daniel Thibault de Radio-Canada. Je veux vous entendre sur le retour en chambre demain, M. Carney. Vous allez croiser le fer pour la première fois avec Pierre Poilievre. Comment vous envisagez ça? Et est-ce que vous avez tendu la main à vos collègues des partis d'opposition pour collaborer, vous assurer que vous êtes capable de faire adopter les projets de loi que vous allez déposer?
OK. Merci pour votre question. Oui, c'est la première fois aux Chambres de communs. C'est pas la première fois d'avoir une discussion avec M. Poilievre ou les autres politiciens de l'opposition. C'est un moment, ce qui est intéressant à ce moment-ci, on est capable de travailler dans une étroite collaboration avec tous les premiers ministres des provinces et territoires. Aujourd'hui, à ce moment actuel, on peut travailler dans une étroite collaboration avec les syndicats, avec le secteur privé, avec les universités, avec les chercheurs. On espère qu'on peut travailler. Je suis prêt de travailler dans une étroite collaboration avec les partis de l'opposition. C'est possible à travers le Canada.
I'd like to hear you in English as well, but you didn't answer the part. Did you reach out to them already? Est-ce que vous l'avez, les autres partis de l'opposition?
Il y aura des discussions avec des partis, des chefs des partis d'opposition pendant les prochaines semaines, ça c'est sûr, bien avant le budget fédéral. Ça c'est le moment. Par exemple, j'ai eu une conversation sur un autre sujet, bien sûr, mais j'ai eu une conversation avec M. Poilievre vendredi soir.
In English.
Which part?
The whole thing.
The whole thing. I think I'm going to focus on the core of your question, if I could, which is about cooperation with the opposition parties as we start the new session of Parliament. And my observation is that this government is cooperating with every province, every premier, myself with every premier of the provinces and the territories. You see that time and time again. We're identifying opportunities to move forward. We're making progress. We're cooperating with the unions. We made an announcement on Friday, just 2 days ago, with the major. On Thursday, I guess it was, in Edmonton on major projects. Heads of unions representing 1.1 million union workers were at that announcement. That shows the degree of cooperation. The Carpenters Union is here today, amongst others. Thank you for making the time. We're going to need you going forward because we realize that we need to come together. We're working with the universities, we're working with researchers, working clearly with the private sector. Ivan is an example. I think ATCO is, Nancy Southern might be here, or ATCO is here. Amazing, there they are, okay? Just like, point being, there's this coordination, this coming together and working together, and that's what Canadians expect. And if we can do it with all the provinces, with the unions, with the private sector, with the innovators, with Canadians, surely the opposition parties can cooperate with us.
Par ailleurs, votre leader en Chambre a dit sur nos ondes ce matin qu'on pouvait s'attendre à un déficit substantiel. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire, substantiel?
Substantiel, un déficit plus grand qu'avant que l'année passée, l'année dernière, parce que nous avons un choc, un électrochoc des États-Unis. Ça, c'est clair. OK, ça, c'est le premier point. Deuxièmement, ce gouvernement a maintenant, avec cette annonce aujourd'hui, mais avec la réduction de TPS, par exemple, la réduction pour les classes moyennes, avec la décision de CRTC sur le broadband, nous mettons l'accent jour par jour sur l'abordabilité pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes. OK, ça coûte pour le moment, mais ça c'est absolument essentiel. Et il faut renforcer la défense du Canada et la sécurité de nos communautés. Alors, mais ce sont des investissements, ce sont des grands investissements qui vont bâtir notre économie et qui vont bâtir le Canada fort. Merci.
Darren?
Hi, Darren Major, CBC. Critics will say this is just creating, your announcement today is just creating another layer of bureaucracy. How can you assure Canadians that this is going to achieve results?
I think one of the things I've learned over the years, 3 decades plus of managing large organizations and things, is you need clear mandates. You need the tools to achieve those mandates. You need accountability in making the progress. Right now, what we have is an organization, many strengths, CMHC, that has multiple mandates. It works in market housing, so where there's no, in effect, public policy provision. They provide mortgage insurance. Many of us get from CMHC when we buy homes or one of their competitors, but it provides that core role. But it's also supposed to focus on what we're talking about today, which is deeply affordable and affordable housing. And that aspect hasn't been working. Hasn't had the tools, hasn't gone to the scale. So we are carving that out, putting it into, we're not creating another layer, we're creating greater clarity, and we're giving all the tools, the ability, and bringing in expertise from the private, and well actually with Anna, both the private and public sector, bringing that expertise under a minister who's got experience in both the private and public sector, and if I may add, the Prime Minister has similar experience as well. That we're bringing those all together, the tools to focus on the challenges we have with deeply affordable. And when we say deeply affordable, let's be clear, we're starting with the problem of homelessness in this country. We haven't been building homelessness. And you think of all the knock-on, not just the questions of human dignity, but the social problems that are fed from that crisis. So we play a much bigger role in addressing that. But then moving to affordable housing, that 30% definition we discussed earlier. But we're talking about 45, 50% of the Canadian households who fall into those category of affordable housing. And we haven't been building enough affordable housing. So what we get is an entity under the minister, Build Canada Homes, with a private sector, public sector CEO with Anna, that is exclusively focused on that, has the tools in order to do that in terms of financing mechanisms, but also has a huge land bank coming from Canada Land. A huge land bank that's going to be ready to do these projects. And because it has financing, huge land bank, it has $13 billion there, then the folks from Kaiven and the industry more broadly can have the confidence that there's going to be demand. So again, with our hosts, they can have confidence of scaling up to a factory to 10,000 units a year. Well, that makes sense in terms of the scale of what we're going to be doing in this country, as it will for other competitors. That's government fulfilling core social roles. We have a responsibility to those less fortunate. We don't build enough social housing. We don't build enough affordable housing. So it's us filling our core role, but in a smart way that drives innovation, gets the benefit of the private sector, and will build and scale.
And just on the upcoming budget, your House Leader said this morning that the deficit will be, quote, substantial. How big are we talking, and what does that mean for future cuts?
Yeah, I thank you for the question. I responded a bit, but I'll recap it. Substantial means that it'll be bigger than it was last year. And let's look at why that's the case. I mean, the actual level will come out with the budget. But let's look at what's driving that. First and foremost, it's the tariff war, the shock that's created by that, the rupture created not just in Canada but around the world, and the knock-on effect, including on the United States, where the economy has slowed as well, I would observe. So you have the impact of that. Secondly, you have the response of Canada to that, which is very clear. We want to protect our industries and workers in the most affected sectors. We've seen the measures that we've announced in recent weeks and, in fact, recent months, and we want to build. So we're going aggressively on building the future, taking control of our destiny. Make no apologies for that. That ensures that we don't have this situation again in the future. And at the same time, and the Minister of National Defence is here, his and his colleagues' many responsibilities to protect Canadians, protect our borders, protect our allies. The world is a dangerous and divided place. Final point, which is the first point, and it's why we're here. We are laser focused on making life more affordable for Canadians. First thing we did, cut the consumer carbon tax. First thing we did when we came back after the general election, cut middle class tax cut, GST cut for first time home buyers. Build Canada Homes is all about affordability while driving the industry. So yes, there's going to be implications for the deficit, but it'll build a much stronger Canada.
Next question, Steve. Good afternoon, Prime Minister Jeremy Sharon, CTV News. I want to ask you about a different campaign promise you made to cap, not cut, the public sector. Do you intend to keep that promise?
Well, the cap is relates to the level, the overall level, and the adjustments that will happen naturally through attrition. There's a certain age cohort in the public sector. People leave employment, whether it's in the public or private sector, for a variety of reasons. Attractive opportunities outside, retirement on the other side. So we'll be managing through that.
Next question.
from Lee's Globe and Mail. You touched on it a little bit in your previous answer. The non-for-profit housing sector is very happy with the focus of Build Canada Homes, but the average Canadian might look at this and be like, well, non-market housing, that's not me. Can you explain why the government is stepping in specifically on non-market housing in this way? And I'm going to squeeze in the second question. Are the $13 billion going to be on the investment ledger of the budget?
Thank you. Excellent. And thank you for asking it that way, because it's very important that we're absolutely transparent and clear what's on the investment ledger and what isn't. Virtually all of that amount will be on the investment ledger of the government. The rental protection fund will have some different elements because what we're doing is protecting something as opposed to building something, if that makes sense. Very important, but you get a different, it's called scoring in the system. And then the other thing is, when you're building a home, you don't expense the whole cost of building the home at the time, right? Because you're creating an asset, so there's an element of difference between what cash goes out and what shows up in the budget. It's the same thing as if you're when we're buying military equipment, we don't expense the military equipment immediately because it's used over several years. So there's that distinction for the two. Why should Canadians care? I'll give two answers to that. One is the scale or the spectrum of Canadian households that are in need of affordable housing. It's in effect, it's Canadians with median incomes less than $90,000 a year, household incomes. So you have two earning families, household incomes and less. That's just under 50% of Canadians' households. Just under 50%. That's part of the scale of the problem we have. Okay, it's not just, quite often, with respect, the housing market is talked about in terms of condos in our major cities, $1 million homes, 1.3, there's proposals for, let's cut the GST on $1.5 million homes, etc., for any home. That's a conversation that's totally detached from the lives of half of this country. The homes they have for those who are trying to achieve. We're not detached. We are very, very focused on it. And the second thing I would say in my answer to your question, that's an interest of people. That's 45% of Canadians. But Canadians are generous people. Canadians care about homelessness. They care about people in transition. They care about our communities. And they recognize that there are deep challenges in our communities, many of which are at least contributed to by the state of our housing market. And that's what we're after.
Last question, David.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. David Baxter with the Canadian Press. Some people may be watching this right now, hearing the plans to build thousands of more homes, and part of the reason why we're seeing such inflated home prices right now is that supply factor. Now, while the focus is on non-market housing here, do you anticipate these plans having any impact on the existing home values?
Yeah, I think I'd answer it this way, David, which is that we're in a situation right now where we need to build substantial more homes. And let me justify that point. Part of it is what we all see every day, just house prices relative to people's incomes. Young Canadians having to save 6, 8, maybe longer years for that down payment. And then the risk of a very large mortgage in that weighing on. The CMHC, I'll use a third party, CMHC estimates that we need to scale up, not overnight, but we need to scale up the amount of home building that we're doing in the country by about 200,000 more units a year. So we're building 240,000, 250,000 homes per year right now in Canada. Bounces around a bit, but it's basically that. That needs to move up to about 450,000, according to CMHC, to get the affordability levels back to what people can manage. And so they're not buying a home on the expectation the home will keep going up. We're a long way from that, which is why we're taking bold measures like this. We're taking other measures, some that we've announced, others we'll announce in the budget, to help the broader housing market. And the last point, to get to your price question, there's two ways you drive affordability. One is income. So the overall strategy of building Canada strong is central to making things more affordable. We're finally in a position in the last 6 months where incomes are growing faster than overall level of inflation. We've got a long way to go before we're back anywhere close to affordability. And that aspect has to be driven by the supply side. So we're very early days of addressing the supply side of the housing market. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Je se passe dans la press conference. Je vais faire une conférence de presse. Merci.
Ready.